There is a specific kind of grief that psychologists have started to study. It does not appear in most grief textbooks. It does not follow the traditional stages. It has no funeral, no memorial, no socially recognized rituals. It is the grief of surviving a relationship with a dark triad partner. And the reason it is so devastating, the reason survivors often describe it as worse than the death of a loved one, is because the person you are mourning never actually existed. You are grieving a ghost, a character, a performance so sustained, so detailed, so intimate that you built an entire life around it. And then, one day, the performer walked off the stage, and you were left standing in the ruins of a love story that was written for you, but not with you. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how these relationships unfold, the specific phases they move through, the psychological traps that make them almost impossible to leave, and why the aftermath is one of the most difficult experiences a human being can survive. But you can survive it. And if you are in one right now, or you are trying to recover from one, this video is going to give you the map you never had. Let me start with something most people do not understand. A dark triad relationship is not a bad relationship. A bad relationship is a relationship between two ordinary people who bring out the worst in each other. It has arguments, it has resentment, it has miscommunication, but it is still a relationship, meaning two people trying, however imperfectly, to build something together. A dark triad relationship is not that. A dark triad relationship is a construction, deliberate, engineered, designed from the beginning to serve one person's needs while giving the illusion of shared partnership. It is not two people meeting each other. It is one person meeting an idea of you that the other person built specifically to attract you. You did not fall in love with them. You fell in love with a version of them that was carefully constructed based on their observations of what you needed most. That is why these relationships feel more intense than any relationship you have ever had, because you have never before been mirrored so perfectly. Nobody has ever seemed to understand you so completely. Nobody has ever made you feel so seen, so wanted, so special. That intensity was not love. It was calibration. And once you understand the phases of that calibration, you will see the entire relationship, past, present, or future, with a clarity that is both painful and liberating. Let me walk you through them. The first phase is the study. Before the dark triad partner ever approaches you romantically, they are already studying you. Sometimes for days, sometimes for weeks, sometimes for months. They are watching how you speak, what you laugh at, what you complain about, what kind of people you seem to admire, what kind of stories move you, what kind of jokes fall flat with you, what emotional wounds you reference in casual conversation, what kind of partner you say you want, what kind of partner you have had before and hated. They are building a profile. Not consciously, always. For some dark triad personalities, this study is entirely instinctive, a form of social intelligence they have honed since childhood, when they first learned that reading other people was a survival skill. But conscious or not, the effect is the same. By the time they approach you, they already know exactly who to be to attract you. They will not be themselves. They will be the ideal version of a partner you have described, without realizing you were describing them into existence. If you told a friend last month that you wished you could meet someone who was well-read and emotionally available, they will show up appearing well-read and emotionally available. If you complain that your last partner was distant, they will be uncannily attentive. If you laughed at a specific kind of humor, they will deploy exactly that kind of humor. The performance is so precise it feels like fate. But it was not fate, it was research. And once you understand this, you will realize why so many survivors of dark triad relationships describe their initial meeting as feeling almost supernatural, like the universe conspired to bring them together. The universe did not conspire. A person conspired, and you were not the co-creator of that moment. You were its subject. The second phase is the flood. Once the Dark Triad partner has approached you and secured your attention, the intensity begins. This is what most people now call love bombing. But I want you to understand it more deeply than that phrase captures. Love bombing is not just excessive affection. It is the deliberate creation of a chemical dependency. Text messages that arrive constantly, compliments that hit exactly the parts of you that have felt unseen. Long conversations that stretch late into the night, where they share what appears to be deep vulnerability, perfectly matched to your own capacity for intimacy. Grand gestures, small ones, perfect ones, surprise ones, gifts that reveal how well they seem to know you, trips planned, futures described, a speed and intensity of intimacy that no previous relationship has ever matched. And here is what your body does during this phase. Your brain releases dopamine at levels comparable to cocaine use. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, surges in patterns designed for lifelong pair bonding. Your reward system begins to associate this person with an intensity of pleasure you have never experienced before. In 4 to 6 weeks, you are chemically addicted. Not metaphorically, neurologically. Brain scans of people in the early stages of an intense romantic relationship look remarkably similar to brain scans of active drug users. The same regions light up, the same craving pathways activate, the same withdrawal symptoms emerge in their absence. Now imagine that this addiction was engineered on purpose, that the person who created it knew exactly what they were doing, knew exactly how many texts, how many compliments, how many gestures would maximize the chemical binding. That is what love bombing actually is. It is not affection. It is chemistry weaponized. By the time the Dark Triad partner begins to shift their behavior, your nervous system is already wired around them. You will do almost anything to get back the feelings they gave you at the beginning. And they know it. Because that is exactly why they gave those feelings to you in the first place. The third phase is the tilt. This is the phase most survivors describe as the beginning of confusion. Because everything does not suddenly change. That is what a bad partner does. A bad partner shifts, obviously. The affection dries up, the attention disappears, the criticism starts flowing openly. A Dark Triad partner does something more insidious. They tilt. The affection is still there, but it comes 15% less often. The compliments are still there, but they now carry a small edge, a subtle backhand. The vulnerability is still there, but it is now used as material in disagreements. Nothing has changed enough for you to say clearly that something has changed, but something has changed. And you feel it in your body before your mind can articulate it. You start feeling anxious in ways you never used to feel. You start second-guessing texts. You start replaying conversations, wondering what you said wrong. You start walking on eggshells in tiny, invisible ways. And when you try to address it, when you gently ask if something is different, if everything is okay, they turn the tilt on you. They tell you that you seem more insecure lately, that maybe you need to work on your anxiety, that they have been the same the whole time, and they are worried about your emotional state. This is the beginning of the reversal. Because in this phase, the Dark Triad partner is not just shifting the relationship, they are shifting the story of who the problem is. The story that will eventually become the entire architecture of the relationship, that they are patient, loving, and stable, while you are the emotional one, the difficult one, the one who cannot handle the peace they are trying to provide. This story will be told to their friends, to their family, to coworkers, to your mutual acquaintances, to future partners, to everyone. And because you love them, because you are still chemically bonded to them, because you cannot yet see the pattern clearly, you may start telling that story to yourself. That is when the trap closes. Now, if you have made it this far, you already understand more about these relationships than most people ever will. But the most important part of this video is coming next. Because I have shown you how the trap is built, now I need to show you what happens inside it. The specific patterns that trap victims for years, sometimes decades. The reason intelligent people, accomplished people, self-aware people, people who swore they would never end up here, find themselves unable to leave. And the psychological mechanism that makes it possible. Because once you understand this mechanism, you will understand something profound. You will understand that staying is not weakness, it is chemistry, and that leaving is not just a decision, it is a neurological restructuring that takes time, courage, and support. Let me show you exactly what happens. The fourth phase is the cycle. Once the Dark Triad partner has tilted the relationship, they establish a rhythm, and this rhythm is the mechanism that keeps you trapped. It goes like this: devaluation, crisis, reconciliation, idealization, devaluation again. The devaluation phase is when they treat you coldly, distantly, critically, sometimes cruelly. You feel confused, wounded, off balance. You do not know what you did wrong. You try to fix it. You try harder. You apologize for things you did not do. You over-explain. You beg for warmth. The crisis phase is when something reaches a breaking point, a fight, a confrontation, a moment where you finally say, "I cannot do this anymore." The reconciliation phase is when they turn everything on. The apology, the tears, the promises to change, the vulnerability that you have not seen in weeks. Sometimes the sex is the most intense you have ever had. Sometimes the emotional intimacy is deeper than anything you experienced during love bombing. And then, briefly, the idealization phase returns. For a few days, sometimes a few weeks. They are the person you fell in love with, the person you have been aching for, the person you knew was still in there. And then the cycle begins again. Devaluation, crisis, reconciliation, idealization, devaluation. Each time you go through the cycle, something happens neurologically. Your brain is being trained to associate the reconciliation phase with reward. And because the reward is unpredictable, because you never know when it will come, your reward system becomes hyper-activated. This is the same mechanism that makes slot machines the most addictive form of gambling ever invented. Unpredictable rewards create the strongest possible neurochemical bonds. You are no longer in a relationship. You are in a slot machine, and the intermittent hits of intimacy have become more addictive to your nervous system than any consistent love ever could be. This is why victims describe the pull of these relationships as being unlike anything they have felt before, because they have never before been in a chemically engineered bond of this specific architecture. They are not weak, they are addicted. And addiction does not respond to logic, it responds to withdrawal. The fifth phase is the erosion. While the cycle is running, something else is happening in the background. Your identity is being slowly dismantled. Not through any single dramatic act, through 1,000 small ones. You start dressing differently because they made a comment about your style. You start talking to your family less because they seemed uncomfortable when you were on the phone. You stop pursuing the hobby that used to bring you joy because they subtly mocked it. You quit seeing the friend who once said something skeptical about them. You start doubting your instincts because so many of the instincts you have had about this relationship have been reframed as wrong. You start doubting your memory because they keep telling you things did not happen the way you remember them. You start doubting your worth because the person who was once obsessed with you now seems bored by you. And you cannot help but wonder if maybe there is something about you that has become unlovable. None of this happens overnight. It happens across months, sometimes years. through such gradual increments that you do not notice yourself becoming a smaller, quieter, more anxious version of the person you used to be. Until one day, a friend from your past sees you and looks at you with concern in their eyes. And you catch a glimpse of yourself in a store window, and you do not recognize the face looking back at you. That moment is the beginning of waking up. But it is not the end of the trap. Because even after you have recognized what has happened, one of the most powerful forces in the universe is still holding you in place. Hope. The sixth phase is the hope trap. This is the phase that keeps intelligent, self-aware people in these relationships for years after they have consciously realized what is happening. Because your mind knows what they are, but your heart remembers who they were. Remember, the person you fell in love with existed. You did not imagine them. They were real in the sense that they were performed with real skill, real detail, real emotional impact. And the human brain, which is evolutionarily wired to hold on to the possibility of restored connection, will not easily accept that this person is gone forever. You keep waiting for them to come back. You believe, sometimes with astonishing tenacity, that if you just find the right combination of behaviors, if you become the right version of yourself, if you love them the right way, the original person will return. The Dark Triad partner exploits this hope masterfully. They know exactly when to deploy a moment of vulnerability, a tearful confession, a gesture that echoes the early days, a whisper of the person you fell in love with, just enough to reactivate your hope and to reset the entire cycle. You cling to these moments like driftwood. You use them as evidence that the real person is still in there, that the good version is not a lie, that if you just wait long enough, endure long enough, love hard enough, they will come back. But here is the truth that survivors eventually have to accept. The good version was not more real than the bad version. Both were performances. Both were tools. The good version was the tool used to hook you. The bad version is the tool used to control you. Neither of them was the actual person. The actual person is someone you may never have met, because the actual person may not have shown themselves to anyone in years, possibly ever. And once you accept this, deeply, fully, in the bones of your being, the hope trap begins to loosen. Not because you have stopped loving them, but because you have understood that the person you love does not exist. The seventh phase is the leaving. Leaving a dark triad relationship is not a single act. It is a process, sometimes taking months, sometimes years. You will leave. You will come back. You will leave again. You will come back again. You will feel weak. You will feel ashamed of your own inability to make the decision stick. This is not weakness. This is what happens when a nervous system that has been trained on intermittent reinforcement tries to break its own addiction. Every time you leave, you experience withdrawal. Not metaphorical withdrawal, actual neurochemical withdrawal. Your dopamine levels crash, your cortisol spikes, your sleep collapses, your appetite disappears. You cannot focus. You feel a physical ache in your chest. And your brain, desperate for relief, whispers the same thing that any addict's brain whispers. Just one more time. Just to see if it has changed. Just to say goodbye properly. Just because the pain is unbearable. And so you go back. And they welcome you, sometimes coldly, letting you know you have humiliated yourself. Sometimes warmly, love-bombing you all over again, resetting the entire cycle. You have not failed by going back. You have run into a wall that many, many strong people have run into. And each time you leave, the wall gets a little thinner. Each attempt is a rehearsal for the final departure. You are not weak. You are weaning. And weaning takes time, sometimes far more time than you expect. Be patient with yourself. The people who finally leave, really leave, are not the people who were stronger. They are the people who allowed themselves to fail at leaving enough times to eventually succeed. The eighth phase is the aftermath. Once you have left, really left, you will discover something that nothing in your previous life prepared you for. The pain of leaving is often worse than the pain of staying. Because when you were in the relationship, you had a target for your suffering. There was a person to blame, a situation to manage, a hope to cling to, a cycle that at least offered occasional relief. Now you have nothing. You have silence where the chaos used to be, peace where the intensity used to be, absence where the addiction used to be. And your nervous system, still wired around them, does not experience this peace as relief. It experiences it as terror. You will find yourself craving conflict, missing the person who hurt you, reaching for your phone at every hour, needing to know they are still thinking about you. Sometimes even wishing you could go back, knowing full well that going back would destroy you. This is not evidence that you should return. This is evidence of what they did to your brain. The aftermath of a dark triad relationship is the neurological equivalent of coming off a hard drug. The withdrawal is brutal. And unlike most drugs, this one does not have a defined half-life. The pull can last months, sometimes years, not because you are still in love, because your brain is still recovering. During this period, survivors describe symptoms that mirror complex trauma: hypervigilance, intrusive memories, sudden flashes of shame, a sense of not knowing who they are without the relationship, difficulty trusting their own perceptions, a profound loneliness that does not respond to being surrounded by loved ones. These symptoms are real. They are medical. They deserve support. And the single most important thing to understand during this phase is that healing is not linear. You will have good days followed by devastating ones. You will make progress and then relapse into missing them. You will feel yourself getting stronger and then get ambushed by a memory that flattens you for a week. This is normal. This is expected. This is how the human nervous system heals from what you have just survived. Do not judge your progress by the bad days. Judge it by the trajectory. Are you, on average, over months, moving toward yourself, toward peace, toward a life that does not orbit around someone else's approval? If the answer is yes, even by inches, you are healing. And healing is not defeat. Healing is the process by which you become a person no dark triad partner will ever again be able to trap. Let me leave you with something to hold. You will meet people on the other side of this who tell you that you should have known better, that the signs were obvious, that you were foolish to stay so long. They are wrong. They have never sat across from a person whose entire being was engineered to bypass their defenses. They have never had their nervous system remodeled by intermittent reinforcement. They have never been the subject of a sustained psychological operation conducted by someone who had been refining their tactics since childhood. Do not accept the judgment of people who have never survived what you have survived. Because here is the truth. The people who fall for dark triad partners are not stupid. They are often unusually loving, unusually loyal, unusually generous with the benefit of the doubt. They are often exactly the kind of person the rest of us would want in our lives. The dark triad partner did not target them because they were weak. They targeted them because they were valuable. The best predators do not go after the small game. They go after the ones with the most to give. That you were chosen was not evidence of a flaw in you. It was evidence of what you carried, what you had to offer, what made you worth the campaign. And when you finally heal, when your nervous system has settled, and your identity has been rebuilt, and your capacity for love has been restored, you will not be broken. You will be sharper, wiser, more discerning, more protective of what you carry, better at recognizing the difference between real love and its counterfeit. You will not be less able to love. You will be more able to love, but only where love is real. And that discernment is the gift the relationship gave you at a cost you never should have had to pay. You did not deserve what happened to you, but you can decide what you build from it. If this video reached you at the moment you needed it, hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach people who are still trapped and still trying to understand what happened to them. Subscribe if you want more content that pulls back the curtain on the psychology of manipulation, healing, and human behavior. And in the comments below, I want to know, if you have survived a dark triad relationship, what was the moment you realized you were going to make it out? What was the turning point? Your story could be the reason someone else finds the courage to leave. In my next video, I'm going to reveal why dark triad personalities always rise to the top, why boardrooms, governments, and social hierarchies seem structurally designed to reward exactly the traits that destroy the people underneath them, and what this pattern means for the future of every society on Earth. You do not want to miss it. Until then, stay awake, stay aware. And remember, the fact that you survived means the story is not over. It means it is finally, at last, yours.